Did you ever just have one of those days where you couldn't believe some of the stuff that you were reading? Because that is exactly what I experienced today as I tried to keep up with the madness that is being dubbed Signalgate 2026. Of course, we had the old Signalgate with the bombing of Yemen and the leak from the government leadership. Yeah. But we're going to call this one Signalgate 2026. And you have government officials involved. You have all sorts of people involved, and some of them state officials, allegedly, over in the state of Minnesota. And what's all of this about? Well, it's about a signal chat and lots of different groups and organizations that spun thereof, all right, that are organizing the people that are going after ICE officers in the state of Minnesota. And some of the admins of those groups, believe it or not, are pretty freaking high up in the FBI and Department of Homeland Security, are getting pretty sick of it because their families continue to get threatened. Their officers continue to get threatened. DHS released a statement earlier today saying that they're not going to put up with people threatening the lives of the officers' families anymore. Give this a listen. This is one of the said threatening phone calls.
You're a fucking fascist pig. You should fucking kill yourself. I hope your wife dies. I hope your mom and dad die. I hope everything wrong that could go in your life happens. I hope you have the most miserable life. I hope you get hit by a bus. I hope you're paralyzed and your wife leaves you and starts getting fucked by BBCs every day. You are a traitor to the American people, to the values that made our very country. You should kill yourself. You're fucking disgusting. I hate you. Everyone hates you.
Who wants to guess, based off of the language and the lisp, the sexual orientation of the person behind making that phone call? Ross Ender says, howdy, I'm okay. And is Trump going to invoke the Insurrection Act? If so, let's go. Well, I hope he does invoke the Insurrection Act after this. And as a matter of fact, if he really wanted like hardcore evidence that there is an actual insurrection going on in the state of Minnesota, I think this is going to be it. I think this is going to be it, because this is kind of like that proof and evidence. And everybody's asking the question, why did it take an independent journalist, who's Kim Higbee, to be able to come up with this? How the heck wasn't the FBI able to get this on their own? I mean, that's the federal frickin' law enforcement agency, premier one in the United States. How come they weren't able to make it happen? Underground Rappers coming in gifting out $1.99. Thank you, sir. That's my question too. How did it take Cam to do this? Like, I thought we were looking into these people and watching over them. We've had how many people get shot now as a result of all of this crap? And we know Tim Walz is in trouble, and we know he feels the pressure because earlier today, Trump ended up putting out this statement. He said, Governor Tim Walz called me with the request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him, which is hilarious because Tom Homan's on his way down to Minnesota today if he didn't already arrive there. And that what we are looking for are any and all criminals that have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood that, and I will be speaking to him in the near future. He was happy that Tom Homan was going to Minnesota, and so am I. We have had such tremendous success in Washington, D.C., Memphis, Tennessee, and New Orleans, Louisiana, and virtually every other place that we have touched, and even in Minnesota. Crime is way down, but both Governor Walz and I want to make it better. President Donald J. Trump. He didn't even put thank you for your attention on that matter. So for some reason today, Walz decided it would be a good idea to roll over onto all of his crap and start cooperating with the feds, the federal governments. Walz, who has been grossly against everything, the moment Signalgate ends up coming out, the moment we are having insight into all of these chats, we know the donors, a lot of the names, like thousands and thousands of names. And you guys will be shocked at some of the people that donated. We're going to go over some of them today. Some of the donors into all of this crap, it's literally like an organized mob to go after and obstruct federal law enforcement operations. Can't make that crap up, man. And now Walz all of a sudden wants to just jump on the frickin' choo-choo train. And I think it's a little bit too late in his case. That is something that is completely and totally outside of his behavior. And I got a feeling that the government had something to hold against him because now he wants to play ball. Underground says, Matt, how are you going to skip over the veteran affairs and legal concealed carry weapon that got shot and killed and murdered? I didn't skip over it. I did an entire stream on it, and he wasn't murdered. He was killed. All right. So distinct difference. And yeah, he worked at the VA. Yes, he was a nurse. And if you want, I'll go over it a little bit later on in the stream. And was he legally carrying concealed? I don't even want to get the semantics of whether or not it was legal, seeing how he didn't have his license and his permit on him. But if we were to go after it, he assaulted a federal officer. He was obstructing and failing to follow lawful orders. He resisted arrest. He had a firearm on him. And I would think anybody in that situation that's carrying legally at the time, the moment you assault a federal officer and resist arrest, maybe, just freaking maybe, he should start being accountable for his own actions. I went and I broke down that entire thing today, the entire thing this morning. And I could have done a much better job. But the guy is responsible for his own actions. And if he wasn't carrying a SIG, maybe there wouldn't have been a potential accidental discharge that went off over behind him because his garbage pistol had a round in the freaking chamber, which you should carry legally with a round in the chamber. An empty chamber might as well be a dull knife. You know what I'm saying? What's the point of carrying the dang thing? But the guy's responsible for his own actions. There's videos, and I'll play them here in a minute, of this guy being told by the cops, get back, and he's not doing it. You know what that's called? Disobeying a lawful order. And then when the cops told the other lady to get back, and she disobeyed a lawful order, and they put their hands on her to push her back, which was legal, he decided to interfere and assault an officer, which then led to him being arrested. He chose to resist arrest with a gun on him. We don't even know the entire facts, whether or not he had 2, 3, or 4 firearms on him, or other weapons, or a knife. At the end of the day, that man wasn't murdered. Now, I can take a step back at the same time of doing that, and I can go, you know what? I think some of those officers that were backing away and then shot after the fact, I think maybe you have a case there. I think maybe right there you might have a case of saying, that was excessive use of force. The man was already down on the ground when they chose to engage. But I'm telling you right now, you're probably going to lose that argument in court because those officers very likely had already made the decision to pull the trigger. You can see them tracking the target down to the ground when they ended up pulling the trigger. And at this point, it's pretty much like beating a dang dead horse. To sit there and tell you that you don't, just because you're carrying a concealed weapon with a permit, doesn't mean that you get to violate the law and assault federal law enforcement officers. You don't get to do that. And anybody that tells you that is flat out lying to you. And if you'd like, in a little bit, we can play the videos of him assaulting the freaking cop, and we can play the videos of him resisting arrest. We can play the videos of him not obeying lawful orders. We can play all of that stuff if it makes you feel any better, man. But the problem is the media, just like everybody else, is going to be dishonest with you. Incog Faraday coming in gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. And I'm not mad at you, man, for asking the question. I'm just mad at everybody else that is blowing that up as if he was quote unquote murdered or it was manslaughter or there was something else going on. No, the guy's 100% responsible for his own actions. And I'm going to show you evidence today that he was an instigator, that he knew exactly what he was getting himself into and chose to enter in that situation. And while you are legally allowed to carry a firearm with that permit in that state, it comes with additional responsibility. It might be your right, but when you choose to exercise that right, particularly when assaulting federal law enforcement officers, it also requires a little bit of common sense and even more responsibility, maybe not to resist arrest at the time when you're freaking armed. 99.99% of the time, that's going to get you shot every time. Every time. The man doesn't need to clear leather and fire shots at cops in order for them to shoot him. And this is a gross misunderstanding when it comes to a lot of people in the world. They think for some reason that somebody's got to be stabbing a freaking cop in the face before they can put a round in him. That's not true. And that officers' actions are also not judged based off of what you can nitpick at a video 3 days after the fact, but on what he knew at the time and what was taking place, and what he saw and what he knew, the information that was available to him, and whether or not a reasonable officer would have likely made the same decision if they were standing in his shoes. That's it. So yeah, if you want me to rehash why the guy gets the Darwin Award, I'd be more than happy to. He decided to take the freaking lukewarm room temperature challenge, and he succeeded. So Here we have Tom Homan, the gentleman that's on his way, if not hasn't already arrived over inside Minnesota. And here you can see him getting an award from former President Barack Obama for doing such a good job deporting well over 900,000 illegal aliens during his time frame. That earned him the reward by Barack Obama. And he's now going down. And you just read the statement from Trump saying that Walz was very, very happy with it as well. But for some reason, people, likely the ones that think that the freaking nurse was murdered, the nurse, doesn't matter what his profession is. It matters whether or not he broke the law. It matters not whether or not he was an actual threat. It matters a lot of different things. So his profession doesn't matter. His concealed carry permit for that instant doesn't even matter. They weren't going after him for his permit. They're going after him because he refused lawful orders, disobeyed lawful orders, and assaulted an officer. That'll get you landed in cuffs 100% of the time when you assault a freaking officer. 100% of the time. Unless you can run really fast and the officer's really slow. Resist arrest with a gun on your hip and make furtive movements towards your freaking waistline, you're probably going to get shot. It's just a fact. And it doesn't matter if you're white and or black. Where's all the people screaming white lives matter over this? They're not. Anyways, yeah, you're upset about Tom Homan going down there? Here's this.
This is a Washington Post headline from 9 years ago, 2016. Meet the man the White House has honored for deporting illegal immigrants. And I would remind everyone in this room that it was former President Barack Hussein Obama who awarded a medal to Mr. Homan. So he's obviously very qualified. He has the full trust and faith of the president. He will continue to have these meetings in the hopes that ICE and local law enforcement can cooperate and work together to have successful immigration enforcement, as we've seen in almost every other state across the country. This is a
miracle, absolute miracle. Even Obama loved the guy, so the Democrats have nothing to complain about. Now, Sean Hughes says the moment he introduced the weapon to the situation, it ends all arguments. Just your opinion, or just Sean's opinion. Sean, every single time, and for everybody that's listening, every single time a law enforcement officer enters a fight, there's a firearm that's introduced. And you, as a concealed carry good citizen, lawfully carrying good citizen, should understand that when you enter into a freaking physical altercation with a firearm on yourself, you have introduced a firearm into a physical altercation. And the human body, quite frankly, can't react fast enough. If you have a sub-second draw time, you're going to, like, whoever's on the other side who goes for the pistol first is going to win that every single time. It's just a fact. The human body can't process the information quick enough. So whatever lies you're being fed inside of the media, whatever it is that you got, man, it's out of control. I'm the furthest thing from a liar. Orbital 1970 GOAT. If you rob a place and have a gun, it's usually a felony despite the Second Amendment. Not hard to understand, committing a crime negates the second. Right. And that's where people, again, that's where people end up losing this argument every single time. Somebody was like, it's not a crime just because he was exercising his Second Amendment right. You're right. It's not a crime that he was carrying a firearm. It was a crime that he didn't have his, permit and license on him as he was carrying the firearm per the state of Minnesota, but the federal government doesn't care about that. Those officers can't enforce that law. What they can do is enforce the federal law when it goes to disobeying, obstructing, assaulting a federal officer. All of those things they can enforce. The fact that he was carrying a firearm had literally nothing to do with it. Nothing. The fact that he got shot while resisting arrest, well, yeah, his carrying a firearm had a lot to do with that. And that's his own doing in order to make that happen. Underground says he had a phone and got mag dumped in their back. Okay, so let's talk about it. The man has one firearm on him. What are the odds he has two firearms on him or three weapons on him? Screw a firearm, just a weapon in general. He's already assaulted an officer, so he's shown his propensity for violence. He's carrying a firearm, which shows he's lethally armed, and he has an object in his hand. Now, if that officer hesitated and he was wrong and it was a gun in his hand, that officer would have been dead, or one of his partners would have been dead. Which is exactly why the idiot that got shot is at fault, regardless of how you try to spin it. It is the facts known at the time to the officer who pulled the trigger, and his feelings and whether or not a reasonable officer would have made the same decision. It's absolutely insane to me that people will sit here and try to defend the retard that showed up and took the frickin' room temperature challenge. That's on him. He didn't have to resist arrest. He didn't have to assault an officer. He didn't have to carry the weapon in there. And that moron put those officers in that position to make a decision whether or not it was a cell phone or a frickin' firearm in his hand. And unfortunately for him, the officer chose firearm. And that's that officer's job. Period. He couldn't have made a better and or worse decision, just a decision. Because if he was wrong and he hesitated, people can die. And that's what happens when you choose to enter a violent situation. Choose. That was a choice he made. That man entered a violent situation, armed, instigated the violent situation, raised the level of violence, and got himself killed. Being stupid. I cannot stress that enough. No amount of super chats, no amount of anything you guys have sent is going to change that, man. X Viper says signal acting as C2 discovered leads to Bavino out, Holman in, Fort Snelling approval. Sounds like the start of new tactics phase of this operation. I would agree with Viper on that one. Adam says, according to Cash, even you, Matt, have broken the law. Cash is an idiot. Just because Cash says something doesn't make it true. And I've sat there and I've stated it, and I've torn down Donald Trump. I've torn down VP Vance. I've torn down the entire administration when they say things that aren't true. And when Cash made the statement, you're not allowed to take a gun to a protest, he's wrong. And he's stupid for saying it. And I've shit on Cash Patel on this podcast countless times. Lethal Old Fart says, those butt clowns are right back at the hotel again tonight. And they are right back at the hotel again. Yeah, of course they are. I saw it leaked a little bit ago. They think that Bavino's staying at a hotel. And so they dumped it, and now a bunch of people are running over there. And while I'd love to show you guys a bunch of idiots standing outside of a hotel, they're just going to end up getting tear gassed and stuff. I thought I'd cover stuff like maybe a little bit more pertinent. I didn't even think that I don't even know how deep into the show I am already. What am I, like 15, 20 minutes deep into this dang thing? 18 minutes deep into the show. And I haven't even touched on this guy yet. This moron that came out and was calling for officers to get their freaking butts kicked and get shot and people to arm themselves.
Well, we had some fun downtown with the Icy Boys, and it looks like they got pretty lit, popping green gas. We have a sighting of Bovino. It looks like we know what he's driving, and if you are following along with the people you should be following along, you know what I'm talking about. And I think, last I heard, they were heading to the burbs.
So yeah, that idiot, now he's scared. He was calling for ICE officers to get killed and all sorts of crap and for people to arm themselves, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now the feds are after him and he's on a run and he's trying to sell t-shirts. His GoFundMe got canceled. Tom Chapman coming in with $1.99. Thank you very much, Tommy. Greatly appreciate you, sir, for your donation. All right. Here's something else that's really great. $147 million. Yeah, I'm going to say that number again. $147 million lawsuit just got filed by Jacob Lang, who I don't like, who I think is a racist and a Nazi. $147 million lawsuit just got filed against Jake today against the city of Minneapolis. So they also have that to deal with. Shush, Jake, I don't like you, and I just still have to point it out because it's a relevant fact. It doesn't mean you get to take over my show. All right. Smoke and Gun said, Good and Pretty's families should sue the anti-ICE response network for wrongful death. They're responsible for recruiting, training, and sending them out. Government officials involved, too, makes it worse. Right. Here's the interesting part, and I'm going to cover it in a little bit. If they were in fact involved, there is a chance that those government officials who we're about to name could actually face federal charges for murder, believe it or not. Believe it or not. And so they would have every single right to go after him and to sue civilly, but chances are they're going to be flat broke. Well, I don't know. Unless they've been getting that Minnesota Somali fraud money lining their pockets, maybe they'll get some of that returned to them. But it looks like the way it goes right now is that they are going to be kind of like SOL. And that if these government officials are confirmed to be a part of this, that they're going to end up getting freaking like smashed as well. And that, yeah, the civil suits and everything else. Now, tonight over at the site of where our communist nurse ended up taking the room temperature challenge, everybody's out there honoring him with bands and whatever this is. Oh my goodness. Yeet USMC Jesus in the chat, making the dumbest comment I've seen in a while. This chat is so brain dead to support the federal government. Y'all are just giving them more consent to utilize lethal force. We should be scrutinizing their actions. Well, Yeet USMC Jesus 1596, I hate to break it to you, sir, but that's what the government does. That's what our judicial system does. That's what the courts do. That's what the Supreme Court has done. And when I gave down the breakdown on how all of this happened, and when I talk about how he's acting and making certain movements and why it's based on the officer's perception at the time when he pulled the trigger and nobody else, that's based on Supreme Court rulings. So I'll tell you what, Mr. Yeet, and of course you're a retarded jarhead, allegedly, just like the other guy that's on that side of the house who's allegedly a combat infantryman. If you don't like the Supreme Court's rulings, maybe you should challenge them. Maybe, just maybe, you should leave the country if you don't like how the country's ran. It's not our fault you don't like the federal laws, the interpretation of the laws, and the enforcement and execution of the laws. Nobody's fault but the idiot that's going to be put in the ground here in a little bit. And honestly, at least we don't have to sit around and wait. Here, I'm just going to put this up on the screen while I do this, just to troll even harder. At least we don't have to sit around and spend more taxpayer dollars that we don't have because billions have been wasted on Somali fraud. At least we don't have to sit around and spend more taxpayer dollars waiting for this guy's trial, waiting for him to go to jail, waiting for all of you people to make a huge freaking spite about it on the TV and everything else. Nope. At least he's just gone. At least he's just gone. And I'm going to leave that up there while I take this other question. Thumper says, off topic, what's your thoughts on the supposed attempted coup in China? I'm not spun up on that, so I can't give it to you yet. So I will have to get spun up on that and give you my attempted thoughts on that. I will get there. But it wouldn't surprise me. I know China's economy is hurting. I know they printed off, like the amount of money they printed has doubled what they had the year prior. I know they have done so in order to fund guys like Maduro, in order to launder money in between Russia and China and the IRGC. I know the economy is greatly hurting over there. I know the yen is taking a giant dump. And I know they're trying to bankrupt the U.S. based on a lot of other things. So it wouldn't surprise me with people with their half-finished homes in a military that's got a bunch of freaking duds and shells and like a paper tiger in a lot of the cases. It wouldn't surprise me if that's actually taking place right now. I'm the United States Civilian Corps. Hell yeah, little APO. As you should be in the United States Civilian Corps. I support the United States Civilian Corps like it's nobody's business. Yeah. All right. So let's take a look in here and actually get into this because it actually finally hit mainstream media. Cam Higby's Signalgate potentially ties unrest to Minnesota Democrats. Eric Sidenstricker. That's a tough name, my friend. Hope I didn't kill it. You're right on with your analysis on the shooting. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, thank you, sir. I appreciate your backup on that. I know I'm not retarded when it comes to the analysis of that shooting. I've sat here on this channel and called plenty of unlawful shootings before in the past that even the most like I don't know, reasonable right-wingers sat there and tried to defend. I have no problem calling it like I see it and no problem telling you exactly what it's supposed to be. And in that case, that sucker was justified. And like I said, the only ones where they might stand a chance is the officer that was backing away that was firing later shots. Article 4, Section 4, part of Fed's constitutional mandate, or the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. Article 4, Section 4, part of Fed's constitutional mandate. Yeah, or the executive. Yeah, when the legislator cannot be convened against domestic violence. Right. So the executive branch is there to enforce those things when the state government is not doing its job. And I don't know if you know this or not, but if the state is violating anybody's constitutional rights, failing to enforce the law equally across the board, failing to provide equal protection to the citizens, guess who steps in? The feds. If just one person's constitutional rights are violated, I don't give a dang if 90% of the state of Minnesota doesn't agree with this person's constitutional rights. They're going to enforce the law equally. That 10% of Minnesota has every right not to have gang members, not to have these illegal aliens, not to have freaking terrorists released from jails and running around in the streets, not to have rapists, not to have murderers, not to have human traffickers, not to have drug traffickers running around their state. Whether or not Tim Walz, you and all of your freaking butt buddies agree that they should stay, that person's civil rights that disagrees, and the rest of the country, by the way, here's something that everybody in California and all of these communist states, California, Washington, Minnesota, New York, people in all of it, Virginia, the state that just said white men can't get contracts under $100,000 by the state. White men. The most racist law ever passed in the last 120 freaking years. Got passed in Minnesota thanks to this wokeness. Most racist law ever passed. It doesn't matter, because above being a citizen of Minnesota, they're citizens of the United States of America. When somebody gets abducted overseas, the Minnesota government doesn't send in freaking CAG to go and bail them out. Minnesota government isn't freaking sitting there negotiating with terrorists trying to get these people out. That's not what happens. The United States gets them out. And the United States has a responsibility to those citizens and those states to make sure they're safe. And the rest of the citizens in the United States of America. Why? Because we have open borders in between states. You just can't have freaking like drug traffickers, human traffickers, murderers, rapists, thieves, cartel members, freaking terrorists traveling in between your communist state that might want them there and the rest of the country because we don't want them here. Get over it. Can't freaking rage long enough about this, man. I can't believe people are this stupid in this country. Don Boo said, so how is ICE doing in Minnesota? Pretty good. I spelled it Pretti. Oh, dude, that's perfect. Quacking Frog says, Matt, please don't judge all Marines by what that USMC Jesus guy said. Probably a dishonorable discharge as a Lance Corporal. Terminal Lance! White Lightning says, an armed security guard. Sadly enough, I most likely would have also done the same thing as ICE. Yeah, and most people would have done the same thing as that officer, whether or not they want to admit it. I could pull up the old freaking video of that reverend that was giving police officers a hard time, that they gave a gun and put through a training scenario where he just started schwacking everybody ahead of time because he was scared of getting shot by a sim round. Yeah, I could put that video up if we want to go through that. It's freaking sad, man. It's sad that people cannot think to that extent. All right. So Baxter says, been following you since last year. Great analysis as usual. The concern is that Ice Watch Network has better intelligence than DHS. Yikes. Nope. It's that they flew under the radar, which is what we're about to get into. Tom Chapman says, I've seen so many idiots saying that Rittenhouse took a gun to a riot. Kyle met law enforcement with his hands up. Facts. And he allowed himself to get placed in cuffs and all of those other things. He didn't struggle and fight law enforcement with a pistol on his hip. It's a big difference. And he also didn't take a gun to a riot. He took a gun to a property who the owner gave them permission to be on. Private property. And that's a big difference. Big difference. But again, he also didn't assault a federal law enforcement officer, etc. People that are comparing these things are so out of control, it's nuts. Now, I have to give you guys a rundown on Signalgate and what the hell is actually going on and why we have Minnesota officials that are actually tied into this entire thing. And all of it starts with Cam Higbee. Cam, for several days, if not a week, has infiltrated the Signal network, all right, that these nut jobs are using to coordinate and putting things together. They had an entire way of passing information. They had dispatchers. They have people sign up as roving patrols. They have static. They have all of it. And they have even a vetting process, albeit extremely weak, in order to get people into this group. This guy over here, I think, did a really good breakdown explaining what it is. Right? So he ends up dropping this huge list last night. Tons of data on all these people. It included members lists of vettings groups that revealed hundreds of participants he dropped, one fresh list with every single member promising 100 more, chat logs showing panic amongst the activists after he dropped it, like the infamous screenshot, Signal is not secure, Flan, which we're going to get to in a minute, has been exposed. We're all effed. I need to leave the state. And responses like, should I leave too? Maybe best to get out of the country. I have contacts in Cuba. Resource documents directing donors to sites like Stand With Minnesota, which funneled money through tending the soil on chuffed.org. Never even heard of that. This exposed potential foreign involvement, with the first donor being Johnny Saputnik, a Canadian community organizer, and its leadership. While Cam was pulling the data, 0 Hour 1 jumped in with OSINT magic, tracing communications to physical locations, identifying key players, and hunting down protester bases. Those highlights include exposing how protesters mistakenly destroyed civilian cars, thinking they were ICE vehicles, called out Minneapolis police for abandoning officers and residents, leaving federal officers to step aside and protect property, linked figures like Keith Ellison's associate, David Goodfried, who locked his account to the chats. He was in there. Urged Donald Trump to declare it as an insurrection to take over. Yep, Data Republican got even crazier. She ended up compiling a downloadable spreadsheet with over 4,000 donors, including possible identities. They highlighted how churches like New Creation Lutheran and Shakopee coordinated food activities, potentially laundering donations as living expenses, connected dots to politicians, including suspicions around Hennepin's County Commissioner Angela Connolly, and foreign coordinators offering shelter. Emphasized psych tactics, infiltrating and breaking trust is key. The fallout, Signal chats ended up getting nuked, and then everything just continued to spiral out of control from there. Joint effort. Just heard CBS News say Bovino relieved of his duty in Minnesota. That is false. He wasn't relieved. Tom Homan's actually on his way in there in order to take over. He wasn't relieved. Dan Bovino's in charge of a lot of crap, and focusing on Minnesota for him kind of sucks. He's got this entire organization he's trying to focus on. So they're sending in Tom Homan specifically, Trump's borders are, to oversee all of this crap. You know, the guy that Obama gave a big old award to. Now, one of the people that ended up getting named as an admin, all right, allegedly, was the lieutenant governor of Minnesota, Peggy Flanagan. And there's information that's coming out, and this is Peggy Flanagan right up there on the right side of your screen, whining and complaining about due process. Information is coming out because Peggy Flanagan, if she was in fact an admin, might be in a little bit of trouble. She was a dispatch admin, allegedly. Name was Flan Outside. Oversaw the real-time tracking and doxing of federal officers at locations like McDonald's, local apartment complexes, and everything else, creating the violent attacks that ended up taking place. This guy, Chad Mazzell, He's the former chief of staff to the Trump DOJ, and he's the acting general counsel at DHS, said that Flanagan better lawyer up, and she may have some federal agents who want to talk to her in the very near future. She's SOL. She's done. You're talking about the lieutenant governor. And if there was ever a time to throw out and institute the Insurrection Act, this would be it. The lieutenant governor of a state directly controlling a group of people involved in obstruction of justice, likely responsible for the death of 2 people. And that's where she gets in trouble with this. She might get cuffs thrown on her because she organized these people that were going over there, including, yes, the recent moron that ended up getting himself killed. Sky God coming in, gifting out 20 Speak the Truth memberships. Thank you so much, Sky God. I appreciate it. This lady, Orrin Chodhuri, Minneapolis Ward 12, was also at the very top. I can't believe she actually put her frickin' real name in Signal. She is at the top of the list inside the Signal chat as well with all of this crap. It gets even freaking deeper. You guys remember a while ago, I want to say it was the University of Minnesota that I talked about with the gigantic freaking fraud, in my opinion, where they used taxpayer dollars to push woke agenda. Guess what? They had a school-specific channel, University of Minnesota Ice Watch, landing zone for all campuses, students, and, keyword, and staff only. Those idiots get a buttload of money every single year from the federal government. $628 million alone in 2025. That's nuts. Let's see here. Ilian, Omar, banana, and something equals SLO. I can't. Fluffin' McPuffin, man. I guarantee that's funny, but my brain is not working quick enough to decode that tonight. Whoo. Cam recently put this out. They have now put out new information on how they're going to be organizing. They have a new way, by the way, of communicating. They have a new source of vetting, which I'll show you. But they're still at it. Good morning, neighbors. This is Dispatch Livid clocking in for the 5 to 7 a.m. shift. If you're patrolling this AM, please join the patrol call so that we can best assist you. Say your handle every time you unmute. Don't share info about your vehicle, real name, address, or workplace in the chat or call. Car patrol is much safer with a co-pilot. Best practice is to disengage and return to your loop when ICE gets on the freeway. We can relay their direction, but we don't need you to follow them. This is how ridiculously coordinated these nut jobs are. Oh, by the way, Brad Tobke, Minnesota State Rep. Guess what? He's implicated as well as Dispatch. So now we have what? City officials. We have Lieutenant Governor. And now we've got this guy, Dispatch, all the way down at the bottom. Blow it up bigger for you guys. If you haven't been trained in on Dispatch, here's a quick and dirty overview. Reply to this email and we'll make sure you have a buddy with you for your first go. Overview, https://bradtabkey.com. Share file, boom, source manual. This moron actually set up a freaking share file. Minnesota State Rep, it looks like, set up a share file for people. Alex Preddy has a GoFundMe going. It's currently at 1.4 million and rising, dozens of $1,000 donations and one at 25K. Yeah, that's probably foreign money if we're going to be honest. Do you know who's donating that crap? Probably Russia, China, Iran, everybody else to cause a bunch of crap in this country so that they don't have to face what's about to come. Scuff says, I bet property taxes are still high in Minneapolis. Yep. Michael Snickerson says, so much for not biting the hand that feeds you. Oh, that they did. That they did. They bit that hand. Unless you're talking about me, my friend, going off on people. But no, this is the truth. And as I've said before, I'm going to continue to sit here and tell you guys the truth, whether you like it or not, whether or not it pisses you off, whether or not I lose every single subscriber, every single membership on this channel. I will sit here and tell you the truth because that's what matters the most. And if you don't like that, it's not the channel for you. You need to go somewhere else. But I will continue to sit here and tell you the truth. And I will tell you what my biases are. I don't have a bias towards law enforcement officers. I, of all people, recognize, believe you me, that there is plenty of screwed up members in law enforcement. No problem admitting that. Tons of them. But what I'm not going to do is pretend like guys like him haven't been doxxed, haven't partaken in this stuff, hasn't been put out there in the public. I'm going to tell you about it. I'm not blind. It's wild how people still consume mainstream media like a game of telephone. Seriously. Rarely watching the actual footage, just repeating what they hear while the real story fades out. We are surrounded by retards. God help us all. Right. I couldn't have said it better myself. Mark says, I hate to sound repetitive, but make Gallows great again. MGGA. I'm with you. I ran a poll earlier over on X, and I should probably run it over here in the chat just out of sheer curiosity to see where you guys are at. I don't even know where this poll's at. I should find it and share it with you guys just to let you guys know kind of like where it falls. Maybe it's long enough I can run it over here because I am kind of curious. So I'm going to run this poll real quick for you guys. Start a poll. This is what I think. Oh, no. Oh, no, Mr. Bill, no. Hold on. Let me get this better. Sorry. Control C. Let's try that. Control V. All right. It's way too long. I'm not going to be able to fit that in, so I'm not going to run the poll. I'll show it to you guys later. Watch the Somali bananas and rice video. Jason says he'll be here. I appreciate you, buddy. So, oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. That's a good video. I think I played that the other. I definitely played that the other day. Viper says contacts with foreign entities, safe houses, and allied nations, government officials involved. Sounds like a lot of groups over the last 25 years. Yeah, no kidding. Yep. Thumper says, miss me off all you want. I come here to have my ideas and understandings of things challenged. My opinions are never absolute. Same, bro. I've had my opinion changed on this channel a lot. I've had you guys present me with information and go, oh crap, I wasn't aware of that. And I change it based on facts. That's what I do. And as soon as I gather enough facts, until new facts come along, those facts support my take. Now, if you present new facts, great. But so far, I haven't heard anybody come up with actual facts on this. You know what? Hell with it. We've got enough libtards in here. Was the shooting of Petty justified? I don't care if... yeah, I'm just curious. All right, here's your poll. Go ahead. Answer the poll. I'm very curious. Am I just shouting into the mic for no reason tonight every time a single comment ends up coming out? How long do you count before throwing the flashbang? Never mind. All right. Oh, man. I don't even want to go over that one. I don't even care. Same idiot I've got up there. So, yeah, now they've got more stuff going on. New signal group. So they have it. Communityofservice.com is where you go for the vetting process. And I'll just put this up here as everybody's going through it. If some of you guys feel like infiltrating their brand new signal group and all of those people that are in there, have at it. Information's up on your screen. It is communityofservice.com if you want to start infiltrating it to report ICE in Scott County. And hey, I'm telling you, do not call this number and send them to a local biker bar. Don't do it. The phone number to report ICE in Scott County is 952-856-0065. Throwing that one out there. Just throwing that one out there. My My favorite part, this is an unvetted group with critical alerts only, critical alerts and information from dispatch from Scott County Ice Watch. They have all of that crap, and they're going to keep doing it, and they're going to keep making it deeper and deeper and deeper. I did want to go over this with you guys because this is some of the paperwork and stuff that's going out. Signal chat guide. Chat, plan events, spread non-emergent news, get to know your neighbors. They have a commute and patrol chat. Use this chat to ask for a license plate check, which is very interesting. They have an entire license plate database that they've been compiling. And I have a feeling with the state officials and everybody else that's a part of it, that they probably have Leos that are running plates. And I got a feeling that if they go back and they check certain plates, and some of you guys don't know how this works. Great, let me explain it to you. Every single time a law enforcement officer runs a plate check, runs a check on a name, it pings with their specific number that authorizes them into the system in order to do it. The fact that we now have people running plate checks, if we go over and we check certain FBI vehicles that are on the list, and we see them over and over and over again, and a certain officer continues to pop up behind the guy that's checking all of these plates, it's pretty reasonable to assume he's the idiot that was doing it. So they can get busted really easy and really quick. I would expect heads to start rolling really fast right now. Really, really fast. Ragger, 11-foot DB 11. Thank you for what you do, Matt. One of the few things I watch and trust. Do you spend time at Carson? I was there in 2018 to 22 with 212. We used to run to ranges with our rucks, and the SF dudes just drove past us, and they're 4x4s. Yeah, man, I used to be stationed at Carson. I was in 10th group. And y'all, man, didn't look happy most of the time. What the F says, me so horny, me love ice long time. Thank you very much. I hope I did your super chat justice. All right. Further, tells them to check in with their location and several other things. Now, this is one of the things that I looked at. It was like, of course, there's some freaking like lefty lunatic with former military experience. R&R. This is the call we use to organize responders to R&R. Only use R&R chat when you see or have trusted secondhand report of 2 or more ICE vehicles parked and running. Use salute for staging. When I saw that, my head about exploded. Salute, size, activity, location, unit or uniform, time, and equipment. That is a military term. We use that for reporting enemy locations, the size of them, etc. They're literally using military reporting formats for some of their crap. It's not enough that the lieutenant governor's in there, etc. But if you really want insurrection, if you really need more evidence of insurrection, look no further than this flyer. Vehicle and pigs out of their cars, use salute for abduction in progress. On your way to an active R&R, react thumbs up to the original salute, then join the call in the patrol chat. They literally have ways to go, here it is. They set up a dispatch, and then they set up a call for people that are heading over there where everybody gets to listen in as they're driving and hear the information as it's coming out. That now makes sense for why the Renee Good situation exploded so quickly. Why the shooting of the latest idiot exploded so quickly. Because they have this massive chat with thousands of people in it, plenty of government representation, and they're flooding to the scene the moment it happens. They're all watching it. Sean says, you're not going to lose me. My comment earlier came off as a little left aside, but it was meant to support of the agents involved. Much love from Florida. Listen, Sean, I'm not going to be offended, man. You've been around long enough. You know me. I'm not going to be offended. But if people are being absolute retards, I have no problem correcting them. And by the way, here's your poll. It's been up for 5 minutes, and freaking 90-something% of you guys think that that guy should have been ghosted, should have had his forehead canoed. 90-something% of you. John King says, hearing the truth is so refreshing. Well, thank you, John. Thank you very much. Jason says, I'm surprised they haven't been trying to bring illegals across the border. Oh, they have. Oh, they have. And I'll tell you something else, too. I'm waiting on the footage. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow morning over on InfoWars. I was going to do it this morning. That show ended up getting canceled due to weather. Tomorrow morning, I'll be hosting. It's going to be 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, so 8 to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. You guys can catch me hosting InfoWars tomorrow morning. Now, here's the interesting part. I've seen it, confirmed it, and it comes from a very trusted source. The Mexican military crossed into the United States of America and was shaking door handles and searching for people. Customs and Border Patrol over inside the great state of California has a lot of explaining to do. Because apparently, a CBP supervisor, not commander, not freaking like area commander, whatever the hell they call him, just a supervisor, was in communication with who he thought was the Mexican military, let them come on U.S. soil, approved for them to come on U.S. soil, coordinated with people in the area, told them to stand down while the Mexican military came over on U.S. soil. It hasn't hit mainstream media yet. It's about to. And you probably heard it here first. This happened the same exact day that the top 10 FBI most wanted guy, the former Olympian skier, snowboarder, whatever the hell he was, the drug kingpin, turned himself into the U.S. Embassy in Mexico. Within hours. What do you think the odds are that Customs and Border Patrol was actually talking to the Mexican military? Because that's the story that got passed down the chain. And by the way, if you're going to do something that stupid, you better expect that your agents are going to leak that information out. Now, I've been told that there's a federal investigation that's been opened up into this, and I'm about to really reach out to them for answers. Because I've got it confirmed, seen it with my own two eyes. They let that idiot supervisor let the Mexican military come onto U.S. soil and shake door handles on private property. He's got some answering to do. WTF says, you don't need to read this, brother, but thanks, man. That was awesome. Nailed it. Oh, well, I read it out loud, man. I'm sorry. CA, Demon AOC from Canada says, Matt, your take on how to stop this anti-law people in Minnesota. It's easy. Enforce the law. It's that easy. You enforce the law. Because right now they're all acting like a bunch of pissed off teenagers. Melissa, thank you, ma'am. They're all acting like a bunch of pissed off teenagers and nothing's being done about it. The feds are kind of enforcing it, but you have this issue that runs all the way up to the state level. This isn't going to stop until you start having state officials get arrested. This isn't going to stop until people start getting thrown in handcuffs. More people are probably going to die because they don't understand the law. They don't understand the Constitution. They don't understand how things work. They've been misled by TikTok videos, thanks to China, and by insurrectionists here in the United States. And they think they know what they're doing. Just like those civil rights attorneys thought that they could walk into a church and disrupt a service. Just because a lawyer tells you to do something or that it's legal doesn't mean it is. Nor does it mean that crap's going to fly, nor does it make an excuse. Ignorance of a law is not an excuse to break it, even if you've sought legal counsel. Funbo says most legit agencies require an attached report for NCIC, state, plate, or ID checks to avoid this exact issue. Keep bringing the truth, Matt. Well, you're welcome, sir. I'm glad I was able to actually throw that out there and bring that up so people understand it. If they absolutely were searching these different plates, if there was an officer or a group of officers that was doing it, that was involved in this, they're going to get hung out to dry. They're going to get arrested. It's going down. It's going to happen. For whatever reason, people don't think it's going to, but it is. You are going to see, mark my words, and I made a $100 bet on this with a donation to the Green Beret Foundation, which if I win it, I'm just going to double it anyways. Or I'll match, whatever. But people are telling me that government officials like Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz or Jacob Fry aren't going to end up making it into handcuffs. Yes, they are. All it took was a little bit of information. And when you start tying in the freaking lieutenant governor, when you start tying in all of these different government officials, it's blown. It's blown. It's over. It's done. If there was ever a case for insurrection, it's now. Chris says, can a citizen take action against a foreign military that invades the U.S., such as the Mexican one? If it's true. Well, it's true. Asking for knowledge only, I'd rather avoid Darwin listing myself. Well, this is the question that I've been discussing over the last 48 hours. If I'm a U.S. citizen and I see foreign people in uniform walking on my property, carrying ARs, dressed in camo, and shaking my door handles, and I know the direction of the border, and I know where they came from, and they're uniformed, I would pull the trigger. I'm not telling you it's legal. I'm telling you what I, as a U.S. citizen, would do. I would pull the trigger. And I got a feeling I'm going to get let off. And here's why that situation is such a big deal. Imagine, because again, they were armed, carrying long guns, man. Imagine what would happen if they killed a U.S. citizen. Imagine what would happen if they shot a U.S. citizen. Imagine what would happen if a U.S. citizen shot them. That is one of the dumbest decisions that guy could have ever made, to allow our country to be invaded like that. Mike says, hey, Matt, can I get a quick prayer for John Hosey, at Korean War and Vietnam vet with Silver Star recipient who was just given a week to live? Yeah, absolutely. I can do that for you. Lord, please look over John and thank you for his time with us. Thank you. Thank you for his heart. Thank you for his dedication to our country. Thank you for his warrior spirit. And thank you for all the people that he inspired on this planet. If he hasn't yet, Lord, I pray that he accepts you as his Lord and Savior. I pray that you accept him into heaven. I pray that he is rewarded for all of the great things that he has done in this life, and that you forgive him for every trespass he's ever committed against not just you, but everybody. Lord, thank you very much for placing John into our lives and for all of the hard work that he's done, not just for this country, but also his family and his friends and everybody. In Jesus' name, amen. Hope I was able to do good for you there, bud. Flying off the fly there. Who were they after is the question, Gracie Jones. I see you asking that. Who are they after is the question. Because that idiot ended up turning himself in that day. We don't even know if it was the actual military that ended up crossing the border. Because if they were going to do that and they were doing actual enforcement operations, if they were going after somebody, they should have had some rep from the United States with them. And I didn't see that on a single video that I got shown. I didn't see that in any of the images that I was shown. None of it. The Walther P99 or the PDP. I like the PDP. That's just me. Thank you, Mr. T. I like the PDP. And I see other people in the chat are already agreeing with that as well. Amen to the PDP as well. But they should have had somebody else. Me personally, my take on that is what they're going to end up finding out is that either that particular supervisor thought he was doing the right thing and that he ends up being being played by the cartel, and that because that guy was turning himself in, he was likely rolling over on somebody because he was working with U.S. officials. He was likely rolling over on somebody who then would have been arrested, and the cartel was going to get him out. And it's insane to me that they're in that deep. And people want to sit around and fight for people over in frickin' Minnesota, like all of these illegal aliens calling them their neighbors. They're not your neighbors. They don't like you. They don't. They're here to abuse the system. And even if they were here to live great, effortless lives, they still entered the country illegally. They still committed a crime. They need to go home. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this evening's broadcast. Peace, love, happiness, and God bless. I'm out of here.
You're a fucking fascist pig. You should fucking kill yourself. I hope your wife dies. I hope your mom and dad die. I hope everything wrong that could go in your life happens. I hope you have the most miserable life. I hope you get hit by a bus. I hope you're paralyzed and your wife leaves you and starts getting fucked by BBCs every day. You are a traitor to the American people, to the values that made our very country. You should kill yourself. You're fucking disgusting. I hate you. Everyone hates you. You're a fucking murderer. And all of